Mattis Maximus here, this time with a little review of this Hillman USA. Surprisingly enough, this is made in USA out of Cincinnati. Hillman is really known for, random hardware and smaller department store type tool sections. But this is an interesting hardware gauge, and I wanted to bring it to your attention. It's cheaply made. It's just printed plastic. The printing does actually seem to be pretty heavy duty, so at least it won't scratch up super easily, but it will get scratched up. The big deal, as you can see, there's an enormous amount of information on this little card. So a lot of times there's just, there's drill gauges which have the holes, kind of random hardware gauges, but this one's really interesting. Like we have pipe internal diameter where you kind of flip this up and then put the pipe on, and wherever it stops you have a line that tells you what the internal diameter is and gives you little tips. Internally tape, MPT pipe fittings and copper and joint tube fittings. So whether you're working on MPT, you'll be looking at these numbers. Tube, you'll be working on these numbers. Then on the back side we have, I guess this is just for inner diameter regular tube. This seems just a little bit odd. We do have a conversion chart from fractional to decimal, although it is really tiny. We have a nail gauge, which is kind of interesting because you can take a nail, drop it in here, and it'll tell you what size it is, whether it's a 6D or 5D or an 8D, so on and so forth. And even gives you an idea about number in pound, whether it's common nails for the upper number or finished nails in the lower number, as well as giving you just a general measurement length. So I thought that was pretty cool. We have a drill and wire gauge, which is just a taper. You just put it in there, and wherever it stops tells you what size wire or drill that you have. It also has various compass functions. We have these different holes, and so you have like a stop right there or a little mark. So you put like I'm always forgetting, something like a spike. So you'd put this right through here, and then you'd use your little tip of a pen or even something else to scribe, and so you can scribe various circle sizes. What I find a little bit odd is these holes are actually centimeters. So you have centimeter, 1 centimeter, 1.5, 2 centimeters, and then the rest of the holes are for inches, which is a little bit interesting. And then we have tubing and pipe outside diameter gauge. And we have these thread pitch holes. And I did want to mention, because 5/16 and 8 millimeters are so close, I actually have a 5/16 and an 8 millimeter thread, and they basically both fit into the same holes. Just about the same, so it doesn't work super great there. But for the rest of them, this does actually work. There's a big enough difference where, the fastener will fit really tight in the appropriate hole. If it's fractional, if it doesn't, then it's metric. And I thought that's actually pretty handy. On the back side here, we actually have tap drill sizes. So if you take this and we take our metric 8, put it, another one which is easier to do the metric. Anyway, what we can see here is we actually have various information, like such as hex bolt wrench size, 13 millimeter. And then we have fine and coarse thread. So if we wanted to tap a fine thread 8 millimeter, we'd use a 6.8 millimeter tap drill, which is pretty interesting. It's also interesting, it tells you what wrench size you would actually use. What I find odd is it does give you the tap drill size on the upper chart, but it doesn't give you the head size. Maybe that varies just a little bit more. Also, since regarding wood, you're going to be working with smaller fasteners generally, not huge ones. They actually give you screw pilot holes, whether it's softwood or hardwood, which I also thought was a interesting aspect. Now the slot, once again, we have fractional inches, and then we have wire gauge if you're measuring wire, but on the back side it just gives you a straight up diameter measurement and decimal inches or metric. Some general lumber measurements here, some general conversion numbers, and then these are for nuts here, so you just use this for the metric side or this for the fractional side. Since they're trying to use the same, I guess, peg for doing both metric and fractional, These probably be a little bit less useful, but nonetheless, for something that's like a couple of dollars, I thought this is actually a pretty handy and well thought out and detailed hardware gauge that actually would be useful in the shop, just because it provides so many functions of measuring so many things, whether it's fasteners, figuring out tap and drill sizes, pipe threads and pipe sizes, wire gauges, nails. And even on the back side here, we actually have an angle gauge, which I thought was interesting. And we can see we wouldn't actually use this point here, we would use this point down here. And so this is our angle gauge, and obviously 0 degrees would be straight, and then we could just tilt this and line it up with whatever line, and then we know we have a specific, had to sneeze there, then we know we have a specific angle. So that's even another handy feature of it. Anyway, just want to make a little video of this Hillman hardware gauge because to tell the truth, I kind of appreciate that even though it's a cheap item, at least they're printing it out and providing some jobs in Cincinnati. And the fact that it's, quite frankly, the most comprehensive one I've seen. To tell you the truth, I'd like one of these that was, stamped out of stainless steel or something, although having the stamp, they would probably have to roll stamp it. To put all this information on it would be super difficult to make it out of metal, but it still would be cool to see something like this made out of metal. But nonetheless, still is the most comprehensive hardware gauge I've ever seen. Anyway, I really appreciate everybody who's been watching and subscribing, and if you haven't subscribed, please do. Till next time, Catus Maximus out.